Are you salty? I mean, like, salty. I know. I'm sitting here in church. I'm trying not to, like, get myself in trouble and wiggle the camera too much. But I want to talk today about salt. Today's reading with the widow, I think, was my favorite time I've read the widow story. I've heard it a million times. You know, Elijah is fleeing from his life because the king wants him dead. Normally, prophets are treated pretty good, but not this one, because his wife wants him dead because he's being a little too strong verbiage-wise. So God, yesterday, sends him to the stream and the ravens feed him, but today the water's all dried up. So he says, go to such and such a place and you'll find a widow. And so he does, and there's this big drought throughout all of the world, and so he sits by an empty well, thirsty because he's been traveling. And the widow comes out and he says, can you get me a cup of water? And she says, certainly. And he said, and a cake. And she said, sir, you know, the reality is that I have enough flour and oil to make one more meal for me and my son. I'm a widow. After that, I plan for the both of us to die. What does Elijah say? Be not afraid. Go and make me a cake. And when you make me a cake, you will be taken care of. Well, you know, he stayed with her for that year, and every day the flour and the oil filled until the drought had ended and God had persevered. So my question to you is, if God came and asked you the impossible, if he asked you to give the last little bit that you had, would you do it? Or would you reject him? I mean, because God doesn't want a piece of us. God wants all of us. And he wants us to be vibrant. He wants us to be that rich flavor that is in this world. It's so interesting because I just learned today that we have 109 million single people in this world. 69 million have never been married. In a world where we live with such filth and debauchery, where any kind of sexual sin is okay, any kind of pornographic image is fine, sex with multiple partners, everything is okay, that we're getting more and more singles. And maybe that's the Holy Spirit sending some flavor into this world because, you know, after a while, all these sins of sex, well, they're just so old and tired. There's no love. You know, and what we really seek is true love, and what God is seeking to fill us with is true love. That's the flavor of this world. It's nothing, you know, there's nothing else like that can fill us except for true love, and we yearn for it. But we've got ourselves so convinced that if we just do whatever we feel like, our life will be rich and full of flavor, only to be left dried up at the end. Nurses talk about people who have come in. They've had a rough life, lots of drugs, lots of abuse to their body, and they're my age, but they look 65. God doesn't want that for us. These are not bad people. These are people who got mixed up in something because they were seeking love. They were seeking something so rich and flavorful that it would make them feel content. And what they found looming over them was the world. And the world doesn't have a whole lot of mercy in it. But it does overwhelm the senses, and it makes you think that everything that you're feeling is good, even though deep down there's something about it that's empty and hollow, at least if you're Christian. The world doesn't fill you up. It empties you out. And then when you're totally empty and you're at rock bottom, the world starts to say, see, you're not the salt of the earth. You wasted it. You're nothing. God could never forgive you. He could never love you. Which is such a lie. The Lord is love. Maybe it's not in words, because that's what the world does. The world keeps saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. And you'll love this. You'll love alcohol. You'll love partying. You'll love hooking up. You will love this drug. You will love skipping mass. You will love it. And then when you're all empty from that love, the world fills you up with animosity, fear, shame. To God doesn't say, love me. He says, serve me, and I will take care of you. He says, come to me, bear your soul to me, and I will tell you how valuable you are. But when he does that, you become the salt. And when a prophet shows up at your door and says, hey, make me a cake, do you have the courage to trust him? Do you have the courage to make that cake? Even though you may very well die of starvation? It's not easy. If it were easy, anyone could do it. And believe me, I struggle too. But I know what sits behind me is my head, the head of my church. Lord, I trust in you.